Hello and welcome to the newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let's start with the headlines. Under pressure to provide the public with more information, the Health Ministry has released the name of the hospital that treated the country's first case of Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, or MERS. Meanwhile, the Seoul mayor made people press the panic button when he said a doctor with MERS attended a large conference in the capital. Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol echoed a UNESCO advisory panel's comments on Japan's bid to list wartime facilities as World Heritage Sites, saying the country must let visitors know the full history behind the controversial sites. Eager to have the authenticity of its latest nuclear capability validated, North Korea released much clearer footage of what it claims was a successful test of a submarine-launched ballistic missile. 6 more MERS cases were confirmed on Friday, bringing the total number of cases to 42. A 76-year-old man died of the virus overnight, but no word yet on whether he had any underlying health conditions. On top of all this, there's brewing controversy after the mayor of Seoul said after an emergency meeting on Thursday that a doctor with MERS symptoms attended a conference in the capital. We have Kim Hyun-bin standing by the news center to tell us more. Hyun-bin?
As you said, Daniel, concerns are rising in Seoul after the city learned that a doctor at a local hospital took part in a large-scale conference and other social activities over the weekend, despite showing minor symptoms of the virus. The doctor said earlier today that the news announced last night by Seoul Mayor Park Won-soon is misleading and the mayor did not consult with him beforehand. The mayor has said the doctor came into direct and indirect contact with more than 1,500 Seoul residents at the conference on Saturday, May 30th. The doctor said he did attend several events before he began exhibiting symptoms of the disease on Sunday, when he quarantined himself before receiving confirmation that he had contracted the virus on Monday. He also said that he was within the 14-day incubation period when he attended the conference, so he wasn't contagious at the time. Other health officials have previously said the virus is not contagious during the 14-day period. Let's hear what the doctor had to say.
On May 29th and 30th, I had minor coughing and phlegm, but that is due to my rhinitis allergies. I had some symptoms of the virus on May 31st, so I asked to have myself put under quarantine. I have not had contact with anyone since 3 o'clock in the afternoon on that day.
The health ministry said on Friday that it had received the names of over 1,500 people who had contact with the doctor at the conference.
Well, Hyun-bin, during an emergency briefing this morning, the Health Ministry finally announced the name of the hospital that treated the first MERS patient in Korea. What did they have to say?
Well, Daniel, the Ministry of Health and Welfare released the name of the hospital, Pyeongtaek Songmo Hospital, where the first patient in Korea diagnosed with the disease was treated. What's surprising is that they found traces of the virus in an air conditioner filter and on the doorknob of the room of patient 0. Authorities are now checking to see if the virus could have been spread through the air conditioning system. Let's hear what they had to say.
We took the 5 AC filters out of the room and sent them to the Korea National Institute of Health for analysis. 3 of the 5 contain the RNA virus. So we are looking into the possibility of infection through the AC system.
So far, health authorities have placed over 1,800 people in quarantine, little over 1,600 in their homes, and the rest in state-run medical facilities. In another preventive measure, more than 1,100 schools have decided to temporarily close for the remainder of the week, with the majority of them in Gyeonggi-do province, where the first MERS case was reported. As of now, there are no known cases of people contracting MERS outside of hospitals.
And also, we've heard that President Park Geun-hye herself visited the state-designated National Medical Center quarantine facility in Seoul. Hyun-bin, could you tell us more about that particular visit?
Sure thing. President Park is reported to have been briefed on how the center is operating as quarantine and the treatments for patients infected with the virus. She also listened to assessments by medical staff and civilian experts. The president also asked the medical team to be thorough in its efforts to prevent the further spread of the virus. Back to you.
Thank you for those updates, Hyun-bin. Moving on to a different story now. Although the government has stepped up efforts to better inform the public about how the disease is spread, It's done little to dispel concerns, and more people are staying away from crowded places such as concerts and theaters. As a result, the entertainment industry is feeling the impact. Our Kim Ji-yeon tells us more.
Behind the counter, the employees greeting customers are all wearing surgical masks. There are bottles of hand sanitizer in almost every corner. This is not a hospital ward, but a movie theater in downtown Seoul, where the MERS outbreak has dented ticket sales. The Korean Film Council says ticket sales for Tuesday and Wednesday at box offices nationwide reached 436,000. That's a 27% drop from the same period last week.
We're aware of the growing concern about the MERS outbreak around the country. In response, we're doing all we can to make our customers feel more safe.
Movie theaters aren't the only venues feeling the impact. A growing number of concerts and performances scheduled at venues in Gyeonggi-do province, where the MERS virus is most prevalent, are being either postponed or canceled. Already a concert tour by singer Lee scheduled for the weekend has been postponed. Concerts scheduled at venues in the capital are expected to be affected by the outbreak as well. The K-pop concert by Jungkook and Mad Clown that was slated to take place in Itaewon this weekend has been postponed indefinitely for the same reason. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Well, the entertainment industry isn't the only one that's feeling the pinch. In the wake of the MERS scare, President Park Geun-hye's approval rating dropped into the 30% range this week. Gallup Korea says 34% out of 1,000 people responded positively to how the president is running state affairs, while 55% gave a negative response. The president's approval rating has fallen by 6 percentage points from a week earlier. Gallup adds 14% of those who spoke negatively about President Park cited her administration's shortcomings in handling the MERS outbreak as a reason. When asked about the president's opposition to giving the National Assembly the power to request a change to presidential orders, 48% said they agreed, compared to 35% who did not. And as Japan seeks to list several wartime facilities as UNESCO World Heritage Sites, Korea is bolstering efforts to ensure the full history of the sites are disclosed. At those very places, tens of thousands of Koreans were forced to work as slaves. Our Hwang Sung-hee reports.
Korea is doing all it can to make sure Japan acknowledges Tokyo's forced labor of Koreans during its bid to list several wartime facilities as World Heritage Sites. Second Vice Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol told reporters in Paris on Thursday that Seoul is basing its argument on a recent recommendation by a UNESCO advisory panel. The International Council on Monuments and Sites said last month that Japan must ensure the entire history of the sites is known to the visitors. In its bid to have 23 industrial facilities inscribed on UNESCO's famous list, Tokyo initially marked them as being operational from 1850 to 1910. This angered Seoul since nearly 60,000 Koreans were forced to work at 7 of the sites during the 1940s. Korea was under Japan's colonial rule from 1910 to 1945. The Korean diplomat said Japan is now in a position where it cannot ignore the recommendation. He added that UNESCO member countries are asking the two neighbors to reach a compromise. In an attempt to resolve the issue, officials from Korea and Japan met in Tokyo last month. Japan reportedly said it will respect the panel's recommendation, but did not lay out the specific steps it plans to take. The two sides will hold a second round of talks in Seoul this month, where Korea is expected to urge Japan to disclose the full history of the sites. The final decision will be made during a meeting of the World Heritage Committee early next month in Germany. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
North Korea has released a new video that shows the test firing of a ballistic missile from a submarine. This time, the footage is much clearer, and it seems to verify the regime's earlier claims that the launch was not only real, but a success. Our Son Jung-in has more.
A submarine floating on the sea surface gradually dips below the waterline. Shortly after, a missile soars into the air with a loud blast. We then see North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, who oversaw the launch aboard a nearby boat, celebrating the seemingly successful test firing with other officials. North Korea's state-run television aired this new video on Thursday, nearly a month after it first claimed to have test-fired a new submarine-launched weapon.
As the development of the missile is complete, we now possess a world-class strategic weapon that can hit and eliminate enemy forces that attempt to harm our autonomy and dignity.
Although the state-run media did not specify a date or location for the test, the latest footage is certainly different from the still pictures it previously released. Those images raised doubts among some international military experts who claim they had been altered to exaggerate North Korea's progress in SLBM development. However, the latest video shows the whole process of the underwater launch, which is seen as verifying Pyongyang's progress in regards to submarine ballistic missile technology. This latest revelation also seems to support earlier statements from South Korean officials who said the North's footage and other photos of the missile launch were authentic. South Korea's military forecasts it will take 4 to 5 years for the North to fully develop and deploy the SLBM. Officials added that they're drawing up defensive measures to counter the threat. 손정인, Arirang News.
The International Monetary Fund has a message for the U.S. Federal Reserve. Don't do it, at least not now. The head of the IMF has taken the unusual step of asking the Fed to wait a while before raising interest rates from near zero, citing the slowing U.S. economy and low first quarter growth. For detailed explanations, let's turn to our Shin Se-min.
A warning from the International Monetary Fund urging the U.S. Fed to hold off on its rate hike until next year. IMF Chief Christine Lagarde said there is still too much uncertainty about economic growth and job creation and raised concerns about inflation.
Regardless of the timing, higher U.S. policy rates could still result in significant market volatility with financial stability consequences that go well beyond the U.S. borders.
IMF analysts also said waiting too long could cause inflation to rise too quickly, while waiting a little longer would provide valuable insurance against the risk of disinflation, policy reversal, and ending back at zero policy rates. They're also worried that the U.S. won't reach the Fed's 2% target until mid-2017. The Fed has held the rate at near zero since the financial crisis in 2008. Her comments come at a time when the Fed had been showing signs that it would delay a rate hike until there are stronger signs of a recovery. Fed Chair Janet Yellen had previously suggested that the central bank would raise rates for the first time in nearly a decade near the end of the year if the economy was growing steadily. But the U.S. economy shrank to 0.7% in the first quarter and growth projections are murky. The fund estimates 2.5% growth this year for the U.S. economy, higher than Wednesday's OECD report that slashed growth to 2% from 3.1%. The think tank said the strong dollar is dragging the economy down. All eyes are on the next Fed committee meeting scheduled for mid-June, as the Fed chair may provide some indication of whether she will continue with the initial plan to raise the rate, and if so, when and by how much. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Well, the month of June here in Korea is dedicated to honoring patriots and veterans here in Korea. And also we have the 60th anniversary of Korea's Memorial Day this weekend. The National Cemetery in Seoul has become the site of a huge light installation. Our Na Yeon-kyung takes us there.
It's a sight you won't want to miss. 3 vertical columns of light will be lit every day through Memorial Day on Saturday in remembrance of those who sacrificed their lives to bring freedom and peace to the Korean peninsula. The Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs says the beams will be projected straight up into the sky after sunset each day.
I hope many people, by looking at these 3 sets of beams, will remember and thank those who brightened our history.
Each of the 3 columns represents something different. The first set of beams is dedicated to those who have fought to protect the country, for example, those who gave their lives in the Korean War. The second pays tribute to those who have devoted their lives to the country's security, such as police and military officers. And the last set represents the wish for a peaceful reunification of the 2 Koreas.
In addition, around 25,000 small lights are planted on the ground around the gravestones in the cemetery. They will be lit for the entire month to remind visitors that each and every person buried here gave their lives to make this country a better and safer place to live.
The installation marks the beginning of a massive 70-day-long campaign to show appreciation for the people who dedicated their lives to Korea. The campaign will run through Liberation Day on August 15th and will include a massive parade in the heart of Seoul later this month. 나현경, Arirang News.
That's all from us. Thank you for watching. Primetime News at 10 p.m. Korea time is up next.